gentlemen, welcome to the Rum and Regret podcast. I am Andy Drake.
Johanna Myers.
Nate Tussey, and we drink and we know things.
It is Tuesday, February 7th, and we're going back-to-back weeks. So since we talked quite a bit last week about everything going on, we're going to shift gears this week, and we're going to bring on I think officially our number one collaborator in terms of times he's been on the podcast.
That's true.
So let's welcome Steve Polivka, everybody. Steve,
Hey.
How's it going, man?
Mr. Soup.
Good. Thank you for having me back. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks for coming back. And this was great. So Steve recently completed a cage match bracket, which is the best Nicolas Cage movie. He watched 32 Nicolas Cage movies, and when someone else says it, Steve, does it sound how does it sound?
As it is, yeah.
I wouldn't say watched, more as I endured 32 Nick Cage movies.
And to be
some
clear,
of them are just
the goal wasn't to find the best Nick Cage movie; it was to find the most Nick Cage movie.
That's
exactly
right.
Accurate? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that's
Okay.
clear. Yes.
And in that, Steve gave us some homework to watch the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which came out a couple of years ago. Just Nick Cage is all over the place. So we'll give a little mini review of Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent because that was excluded from the cage match. And and we're just going to have some fun with it. So, but first we will do some segments. I'll start off with streaming selections of the week. Not a whole lot different from what I said last week. Just really waiting for Star Trek Picard to start in, I think I want to say February 14th it starts, that Tuesday. So just really, really excited for that to come down. Again, we're getting the entire Next Generation cast in there. And just can't wait. And with that, we can jump right into the Marvel Minute. So, Nate, what do you got?
Okay, I can't do the rest of that.
No.
Okay, rather brief in Marvel Minute since we covered 3 weeks of news last week.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna run through this real quick. Apparently, Ant-Man 3 Quantumania is getting some pretty stellar reviews out of the booth. My favorite first reaction was from Straw Hat Goofy, my favorite TikToker turned official like TikTok / Marvel / Star Wars opening host type person.
Yeah.
He basically said it was amazing. Jonathan Majors is scary as fuck as Kang. He didn't say that word, but the best way to sum it up is it's a very expensive episode of Rick and Morty. Like, ooh, great description, really bad timing.
Yeah, right. Too
With the
soon.
reference. Yeah, too soon.
Too soon.
I'm very excited for it. I can't wait. So that should be really fun.
Yeah.
What do we got next here? 8 MCU characters likely to appear in the Deadpool 3 movie. People are already putting forth what their thoughts are, but there's some pretty obvious ones. There's going to be a lot of the TVA in this movie. So Miss Minutes is going to be there. Loki will be there. Owen Wilson as Mobius will be there. Hunter B-15 is going to be there again. Doctor Strange apparently might make a cameo with Clea, Charlize Theron as Clea. There's a possibility that we're going to see She-Hulk for more fourth wall breaking fun, since she's the one that started it and Deadpool does that all the time. So it would be hilarious for them to have like a break off.
Yeah.
Breakdown. Interesting.
Right.
And then obviously a bunch of potential with more Jonathan Majors as Kang, and potential Spider-Man men, plural, is what people are kind of theorizing. So we'll see what happens with that, which would be very cool. Sony's upcoming Spider-Man TV show gets exciting update from execs. So Sony Spider-Verse wants to go the way of Disney Plus and have Spider-Men TV shows linking their movies together,
Huh.
which
Okay.
would be really cool because there's a lot of supporting characters and a lot of great villains in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So they don't all
Huh.
have to be about Spider-Man, but there's a lot of good stuff that could come through that. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with that, considering they have a bunch of movies coming out. So Kraven the Hunter and El Muerto and Madam Web and another Venom
Yeah.
movie. So there's a lot of space in between those that they can fill with some fun TV if they can get the right people to do it. There was an update on Marvel's Wolverine game, which apparently is going for a hard R, potentially mature rating,
Oh,
which
wow.
I'm fucking here for. Let's go.
Yeah.
If it's going to be, I think the theory is that it's going to be set before he's an X-Man, before he meets Xavier. So
Okay.
I'm not sure what kind of claws we're going to get, but the teaser trailer showed metal. So we'll see what happens with that.
Okay.
But it's going to be blood everywhere. I think is the idea. So that's the only reason you go for that kind of rating with the Wolverine game, which is exactly how it should be. So I'm
Right.
really excited, and it's Insomniac. So come on, they can make a combat game,
Yeah.
as we know. Let's see. The other one I thought that was cool was the movie trailers that are coming up for the Super Bowl. So
Oh, that's right.
Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 are both confirmed. There's also some other Heineken crossover with Quantumania that'll probably be there as well. The Marvels should have a big spot as well. And then it looks like Disney's got some other stuff. Little Mermaid, Elemental, Indiana Jones. And then it looks like Secret Invasion was rumored to have a spot, but now apparently has been scratched from that. So
Ooh, all right.
we will see. That thing got delayed anyway. So yeah, that's about it. Short and sweet, Marvel Minute.
Okay. We Jamie and I did watch Wakanda Forever.
Yes.
The last weekend. It was good. It wasn't. I mean, obviously the stuff with Chadwick Boseman and paying tribute to him in front was amazing. And then I did respect how they dealt with his death. I thought that was really smart and how they did it. I don't know.
But yeah.
But the story past that just seemed a little weak.
Wow.
You know,
That's a strong word. Okay. What about it?
Well, it became, I hate to say it, it became Avatar for me. So the telecon, the Water City is sitting on vibranium. Right. And literally blue people are coming out fighting against everybody else. It just it hit a little too Avatar for me. Because it was literally, I mean, Avatar, like the first Avatar was unobtainium, that $1 million element, and blue people are literally on it. Their big tree was on it. And so
we know.
It became way too Avatar for me. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's rough. That's very rough. Okay.
I did think Namor was very cool. I loved the backstory of Namor and his people and how they connected that. I thought that was amazing. I don't know. It didn't.
You just broke Nate's heart.
I know.
No, not at all. I mean, the movie is not really for us, so that's okay. If you didn't really get it or like it that much, that's fine.
So anyway, I'm just putting that out there. That's all. So anyway,
Mr. Soup, what did you think of this mid movie Andy's talking about?
I liked it a lot personally. I get Andy's point for sure. I didn't put that together until he said that, but I felt like I thought it was a good continuation of the Black Panther story. I really liked how they handled Chadwick's passing. I did not expect to cry during the opening, where it says Marvel and has the still images. I was like, well, that's not fair. But I thought it was really well done. I really liked, is it Namor or Namor? Namor. I really liked what they did with his character because I did not know much about Marvel especially Namor before this movie, and some of the people I read online were basically like, "Oh, like think DC's Aquaman, but in Marvel," and I was like, "Oh, so he's gonna like talk to dolphins and stuff? Like
Yeah.
what the hell is this?" So then when I saw him, I was like, "Oh, okay, he's like legit. Like he could fly with his little wing ankles and like
Foot feathers.
drown people. Foot
Foot
feathers,
feathers.
yeah."
Yep.
But I really liked the backstory they gave him, and I feel like it does
Yeah.
set up for a lot more dimension in the MCU. And I also just like the more representation of different cultures, different people in the MCU. I really thought that was good, and it opens up the MCU to be so much more, which I really appreciate.
Right.
Well said. Well said. Andy, you're full of shit. Well said, Steve.
Right. Yeah.
I'm kidding.
No,
I'm kidding.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm kidding. Yeah, well, it's interesting you said that, because originally Namor, the other version, was like a white guy from Atlantis. So they did such a great job changing the entire backstory. So
yeah. I think that was good. So I will not give my thoughts on the bonus credit scene either.
Oh yeah, don't. Joe hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah,
matters, because she hasn't seen the first one. So
No,
right,
I have
yeah.
to see
So we can,
both.
yeah. So anyway, sorry, Nate. Didn't mean to
No
to
apology.
burst that bubble there.
Nothing to burst, man. I thought the movie's legit, and I think we're gonna win an Oscar. Like I was in the movie. I think Marvel's finally gonna get an Oscar for Angela Bassett. So we'll see.
All right. With that, let's jump into this cage match, man. I'm excited. I'm excited to hear. Okay, so I mean, Steve, explain to me how you wake up one day and come to this conclusion.
So this all happened because at the end of November, a friend of mine, Heather, sent me a message on Facebook and said, "Hey, my partner really loves Nic Cage. Are you able to find any Nic Cage movies? Can you add them to your Plex server for me?" I said, "Yeah, I can track them down. Why not?" So then I just, sauntered on over to IMDb and was like, "Well, what has Nic Cage been in?" And I went, "Holy shit. This man has never turned down a role, I swear to God." Like, and I'm just going through, and I'm like, are these like made for TV movies? Are these like bootleg DVDs? Like, is somebody holding his kid hostage? Which is probably the theme of like 12 of them. But I was like, what the fuck is happening here? So then I thought, okay, well, I'm going to make it my mission to watch as many of these as possible, because I got to see what's going on here. And then I jokingly told her, like, oh yeah, I should do like a March Madness thing, but call it Rage in the Cage, and just do 32 Nic Cage movies. And she was like, yeah, you should do like 16 best, 16 worst, and pit the best against the worst and see what wins. And I'm like, that's not a bad idea. Okay, I'm going to make a big thing of it. Why not? And so that's what I did. Yeah, the scientifically unscientific way that I determined this was I just looked up, like, BuzzFeed's top 15 Nic Cage movies or whatever, like in Google, and surprisingly, there was an article for each of them. So I pit the top 16, so it was 15 and 15, and then I thought, like, okay, I need to just pick one extra for each column. So then I just went through his IMDb and picked out 2 at random. For the one good one, I added Gone in 60 Seconds, because I mean, I liked it back when it was in theaters. I feel like it came out on the tail of Face Off, and it was in that bracket where it was like The Rock, Face Off, Gone in 60 Seconds. Like, Nic Cage seemed unstoppable, but then after Gone in 60 Seconds, he kind of disappeared for a while.
Dude, and best use of Lowrider.
Yes. And it had Angelina Jolie. It had some German industrial guy in a trench coat, which was very popular in the late 90s. So, but it was like, I felt like, but then he disappeared and I found where he went through this adventure. So, I had to follow the Nick breadcrumbs as they went through cinema.
Yeah, so, you could get another master's degree, basically in Nic
Cageology,
in film, off of this Nic Cage thesis you're about to drop.
I don't know about that. But this is where it gets wonky. So I did this entirely by myself. So similar to Whose Line Is It Anyways, the scoring was completely subjective. I would say things like, Nick Cage's accent here was really funny. 5 points for that. Minus 2 points for the utter, ridiculousness of this. Or like one movie got minus 1,000 points because I was like, you seriously made me sit through that, Nick? Like, I hate you. So, that was in the first round. And then after that, it was just which movie is more distilled Nic Cage from like unrefined Nic Cage essence down to its most pure form.
Right.
So, I'll just start at the top with the top 16 best Nic Cage movies per scientific research was Face Off, Adaptation, National Treasure, Wild at Heart, Valley Girl, Kick-Ass, Raising Arizona, Red Rock West, Moonstruck, Color Out of Space, The Rock, Con Air, Leaving Las Vegas, Gone in 60 Seconds, Mandy, and Pig. The top 16 worst movies were Vampire's Kiss, The Wicker Man, Trapped in Paradise, Bangkok Dangerous, Grand Isle, Season of the Witch, Arsenal, Dying of the Light, Deadfall, Rage, Outcast, Firebirds, Left Behind, Trespass, 211, and Pay the Ghost. A lot of winners in there that I'm sure everyone listening is going to be like, oh shit, Left Behind, that was so good. To which I would say you're a liar and you should feel bad. That got minus 1,000. But anyway, so I'm just going to quickly go bracket by bracket and then it'll flow, I hope.
Okay.
And
let's do it. I'm all in.
Round one, I started off strong, and I absolutely hated round one because I was like, these are like my children. How could I pick between these two? And it was Face Off versus Vampire's Kiss. Face Off, I'm sure everybody is familiar with. It has both Nic Cage and John Travolta. They switch faces. Right. Nic Cage has to act like John Travolta. John Travolta acts like Nic Cage. Nic Cage acts like a madman regardless. There's... he has like gold-plated guns and a red velvet suit 5 minutes into it, and I was like, how the hell could this be beat by anything? Spoiler alert, it was beat by Vampire's Kiss. I don't know if anyone's seen Vampire's Kiss.
Wow.
Get the fuck out of here.
Hear me out. I don't know if anyone's seen Vampire's Kiss, but it is the most batshit insane movie I've ever seen. First off, like I said, Nic Cage's accent in this movie, like he brings home a girl from the club. It takes place in the 80s. He plays this like banker with a middle part haircut that I had in middle school. And he brings home this girl from the club and they're like about to get it on and a bat flies into his room and he literally goes, shoo, 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 like trying to shoo it out the window. And I'm like, what the fuck is that accent, Nick? Like, really? He gets bit by a vampire, at which later in the movie, he literally runs around, I'm assuming New York City, going, I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! There's a scene of him, like, during the day, just walking around carrying a large stick with, like, blood and torn clothes, just moaning to the sky, hoping somebody will stab him and kill him. It's just, he terrorizes this, like, woman who he works with. There's a scene in this movie literally where he chases this woman into the bathroom and the woman's like, please leave me alone. And there's this old lady there and she looks at them both and she just, her one line for the movie is, what the fuck is going on in here? And then she walks off screen like a GTA NPC. Like her arms are super stiff and she's like,
like I'm about to do the same thing. Yeah, I'm about to do the same thing.
I was like, what's going on? Like, are you kidding me right now? So all of this, I was like, this is Nic Cage at his most unhinged. Like, Face Off at least had structure. It had whatever. This is like he was probably paid like an 8-ball of cocaine and told just go. So I was like, I have to, like, this has to get points. And it was very close. But Vampire's Kiss, highly recommended. If you ever watch the YouTube video compilation that says Nic Cage losing his shit, like 90% of that is Vampire's Kiss.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. But second round, this one was much easier for me. Adaptation versus Wicker Man. I hated both movies, but of the two, only one of them did I see in the theater and then promptly got mugged afterwards, and still seeing Wicker Man was the worst part of my night. So I wish I was kidding, but that's a story for another day.
Oh man.
Wicker Man was just, I love the original. The remake, it should have been called Nic Cage running around Honey Bear Island punching women. Like, that was
Right.
the entire movie. Adaptation, on the other hand, was just, it was just, I hated it. I was like, this is convoluted. I don't get it. Like, I don't know. Anyway, but
Yeah.
there had to be a winner, so I was like, I guess adaptation. Like, whatever.
Right.
Round 3 was National Treasure versus Trapped in Paradise. I'm sure everyone's familiar with National Treasure. He has to steal the Declaration of Independence. And, he goes about that. It's very, like fantastical nonsense.
Yeah.
I found it to be really contrived and boring, personally. Trapped in Paradise, I had never heard of, but it has John Lovitz, and it has, oh my god, I can't think of his name. Garth from Wayne's World. Dana Carvey.
Dana Carvey.
It has Dana Carvey, John Lovitz, and Nic Cage and their 3 brothers who get out of jail.
Oh my god, I've seen this.
They're trapped in like a town with like a snowstorm, and they're trying to rob a bank, basically, and then it just kind of unfolds from there. It's like a comedy from like late 80s, early 90s, and it was semi-enjoyable, so I was like, it's better than National Treasure. National Treasure.
What is going on with this
Like
bracket?
I said,
Your bracket is
again,
bullshit.
subjective.
It's the most Nic Cage.
It's the most Nic
movie.
Cage. It's not the most structured.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Like, Nic Cage was too normal in National Treasure. In Trapped in Paradise, he was a little more unhinged.
So this is a Three Little Bears moment, because Castor Troy was too Nic Cage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I love this because this is already like March Madness. Like, my bracket has already been busted.
Just busted.
Like,
yeah,
and we have
exactly.
just started. Like, we have
Right.
just scratched the surface. And seriously, like,
Right. Exactly.
Two of my top 5 are already off the.
Yeah, exactly.
So round 4, Wild at Heart versus Bangkok Dangerous. So Wild at Heart, I only found out in the final 4 is a David Lynch movie, which now makes total sense.
Oh yeah.
I did not know that the first 3 times I watched it. And so all I could think was, what the fuck is this? Like, in the whole movie, it's like Nic Cage is like, in the movie, there's literally a scene where he's like in bed with this lady, and she's like, "You're wild at heart, baby." He's like, "Yeah, I'm wild at heart." She's like, "You're real wild at heart." I'm like, why do they keep saying the name of the fucking movie? You're like, what the hell? But there's a scene in this movie where it takes place it's like made in 1990. So there's a scene where he's at a metal show and like Exodus is playing or something like that. It's like thrash metal. There's a mosh pit, and like this guy like lays hands on Nic Cage's woman or something, and Nic Cage like puts on this leather jacket or like a snakeskin jacket, and he like holds up his hand, and the band stops playing, and the pit opens up, and Nic Cage points at the guy, and he's like, "Now you're gonna apologize to that lady, or I'm gonna have to show you a thing or two." And I'm like, what the nonsense is this? Like, Nic Cage looks like he's 20 years his senior of everybody there, and everyone's like, "Oh shit, that guy's a badass." And I'm like, it's just run-of-the-mill Nic Cage in a snakeskin jacket. Like, what is happening here? And then the guy's like, "Oh shit, dude, I'm sorry." And like, it has Willem Dafoe in it, and he's some sort of weird zoot suit gangster who like betrays Nic Cage halfway through it and like steals his girl. Right. And then at the end, there's like an angel that comes down or something. It's just very bizarre. Which, if you're like, oh, this is a David Lynch movie, you're like, cool. It's like Twin Peaks. I get it. But like, not knowing that, I was like, what the fuck is this? So, and that went up against Bangkok Dangerous, which I have 3 notes on that. Nic Cage cannot effectively play an assassin. He is not effectively like a trained killer in any way. Like, it does not come off as true. And it's just Nic Cage running around Thailand with a bunch of people who look like they could genuinely beat the shit out of Nic Cage, acting like they're scared of him because he's like some trained killer. And it was so bad. I was like, this is awful. So number 5 was Valley Girl versus Grand Isle. Valley Girl, I'm sure if you guys have seen it, it's your quintessential 80s rom-com. No real notes about it. It was mid, as the kids say. Grand Isle, though, I had no idea what Grand Isle was going into it, and I actually, for it being on the shitty side of things, I really enjoyed it. If Nic Cage plays one role well, it's that of a disgruntled, PTSD-ridden alcoholic veteran.
Yeah.
In this movie, he is a veteran who is a heavy alcoholic, and he's just crazy. Like, so it's about this guy. Like, it's shot interestingly. So it starts out with this young kid who is in a jail, and he's being interviewed by a detective, and they're like, "Tell us what happened," and he's like, "Oh, I want to talk to a lawyer," and they're like, "Fuck you, we're the cops, you don't get a lawyer," and he's like, "All right, bet." So then he just starts talking, and then so then it shows, like, in between him, it's like him telling the story of what happened. And so then it's basically, he is like, he knocked up this waitress who's his baby mama or something, and they're like, "We need cash," so he takes odd jobs, and he gets paid to fix a fence at Nic Cage's house, which broke because somebody broke into Nic Cage's house, and Nic Cage shot the guy when he was running away because he's this drunk, just, like, veteran guy, and just, like, shot him from the roof with a rifle. And so now they call this kid over to fix the fence. While the kid's fixing the fence, Nic Cage's wife is, like, unhappy in her marriage, so she's flirting with the kid. And the kid's like, "Oh, okay, Miss Robinson, what's up?" And then Nic Cage is, like, watching them flirt, so then he starts, like, lining beer bottles up on the fence, and while the kid's repairing them, he gets on the roof and starts shooting the beer bottles, scaring the hell out of the kid. And then a tornado comes, because why not? And then with the tornado coming, he has to stay at the house with them and weather the storm. And so while they're there, Nic Cage's being uber creepy, drunk veteran guy, and he's like, "You want to fuck my wife? I bet you want to fuck my wife." And his wife's like, "Why would you say that, darling?" And this kid's like, "Yo, I just want my $20. Let me get out of here." And then it kind of devolves from there. The story gets really weird. There's some barbarian shit in the basement where, like, it went from, like, oh, they're just some sort of weird couple that, like, does shit, to, like, oh, they keep people in their basement a la Barbarian. Okay,
man.
fair enough. And then it ends with, like, Nic Cage getting dressed in his like in his fine garb for, I wasn't in the military, so, like, fine military garb with all his medals, and then he shows up at the police station, and the kid's like, "You don't have to do this, Nic Cage," and he's like, "I'm fucking Nic Cage," and he dies in a hail of fire. But it was like, overall, it was pretty good. I was like, all right, I don't know why this is in his worst movies, but whatever.
Yeah, so why does this one beat his, like, best, like, Con
Valley
Air
Girl?
or The Rock? No,
this beat Valley Girl, because I was like,
Right.
like, Valley Girl's Valley Girl. It's nothing special about it.
Okay.
Next was Kick-Ass versus Season of the Witch. Nate, I know you're gonna start screaming, but so Kick-Ass was decent. I didn't really
Not really
like
a Nic
it.
Cage movie either.
It's not really a Nick. That's exactly it. It wasn't a Nic Cage movie. It was like,
he was very sort of subdued in that role anyway. Like, there wasn't a whole lot for him to do, you know? Like, I mean, almost it between Kick-Ass and Kick-Ass 2, like, Jim Carrey plays a more like Jim Carrey-esque version of, like, crazy guy in Kick-Ass 2 versus Nic Cage being almost the Obi-Wan to Hit Girls, you know, like, her upbringing and everything. So he needs to be calm, he needs to be cool, he can't be as Cage.
exactly.
As so I get well, like, and Chloe Grace Moretz owns Kick-Ass, like,
100%.
in that
every
in that
language front
realm,
to back.
and
Yep.
yeah, so, like, Nic Cage doesn't, like, yeah. So I totally get why that one necessarily wouldn't.
Oh, for sure.
Move
Yeah,
on.
and that's exactly what my thought process was. Kick-Ass, I was like, it's a decent movie. It is not a Nic Cage movie.
Yeah.
Ergo, Season of the Witch, on the other hand, completely awful. But Nic Cage sells it. So, like, my first note, I had to pull up the Facebook post for this, because my first note for Season of the Witch is, like, okay, a Nic Cage movie that takes place in medieval times. Fair enough. Why the fuck does he look like the singer of Nickelback? Oh my god. Like, he comes on screen and he has his, like, Con Air hair. And, like, it's all, like, flowing, and, like, you can tell he uses Pantene Pro V, and it's, like, fluttering in the wind, and he's just like, hey there, Ron Perlman, let's like go fight on this crusade. And Ron Perlman is totally in historical period language, is like, hell yeah, brother, let's go do it. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then they like go about, they kill some witches. Like it was enjoyable, but it is a bad movie. So if you like bad movies, give it a watch. Laugh at how he looks like freaking he's gonna run around medieval Europe asking people if they've seen this photograph. You know, it'll be fun. So then, oh god, where were we? So the next one, this one, I have a friend who was following me along Facebook, and he kept telling me, like, I can't wait for you to see Raising Arizona. Like, I love that movie. It's so good. And I was like, all right, Raising Arizona. So I started watching it, and this is entirely subjective. I do not like Coen brother films.
Yeah, that movie does not hold up, by the way.
It does not hold up. I did not really enjoy it. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, meh. However, it went against a movie called Arsenal. Now, Arsenal was so forgettable that I literally today, before we, like when I was doing my prep for this, I was just like, let me make sure I know what the different movies are.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck is Arsenal? Like, I don't even remember watching a movie named Arsenal. And I had to like search my Facebook for it. And then finally, when I found it, I was like, oh, it was that goddamn movie. Arsenal's a movie where Nic Cage plays a former CIA agent who now has dementia. And he's like kidnapped by a Middle Eastern guy who like he ordered the death of his brother, and the guy wants revenge, but Nic Cage doesn't even remember what the hell is going on.
Oh wow.
And it's just really heavy-handed in the whole Iraqi war, like politicness of it, and it's just bad. I was like, this is just, it's not even like, ho, look at Nic Cage being bad, or like, this is like Troll 2 bad. It's just like, you don't even get a star for trying. Like, I'm calling your parents, it's time to go home. Like, you know, like, this is just no. Like, go sit in the corner with your dunce cap, Arsenal. So anyway, so Raising Arizona won by default, because I think I literally said, like, it had Nic Cage, and people seem to like it, so therefore, it wins.
Man, this is getting more and more like March Madness, because it's like, god damn it, how is Kentucky out and this bullshit is going on?
For sure. No, for sure.
Yeah.
So match 8 was Red Rock West versus Dying of the Light. Let me see. Oh shit! No, wait. Dying of the Light was the dementia movie. Oh fuck! What was the other one? God damn! Where's my bracket?
We're going very meta.
No, sorry. Arsenal was one where he's like an ex like trained killer, and he's friends with Danny Glover. And
wait, what?
Like somebody kidnaps his daughter and he has to go after them, and Danny Glover plays like the hype man because Nic Cage isn't a scary looking person.
Too old for
and
this
he's
shit.
basically like telling Nic Cage's kids, like, you better listen to him. This man killed more people than you've ever met. I'm too old for this shit. And then Nic Cage, that's right. And I'm like, I don't buy this. Like, what the fuck? It was so bad. So anyway, so Dying of the Light was the stupid CIA movie. Red Rock West, however, really good movie. I've never seen it. Similarly, this is way more believable Nic Cage hitman. Nick plays a kind of transient worker, I feel like from West Virginia or something like that, who just like goes around to different odd jobs, like at oil fields and shit, just gets work, whatever. So he goes into a town for a job in Texas, and he meets up with some guy who's like, oh, are you here about the job? And he's like, yeah. And the guy's like, okay, meet me at the bar and I'll give you the details. He's like, all right, sounds cool. He shows up at the bar, and the guy pretty much is like, all right, here's the money. I want it to look like an accident, blah, blah, blah. And Nic Cage is like, what? And the guy hires Nic Cage as a hitman to kill his wife. And Nic Cage is like, I was coming out here to, like, harvest the corn for Paul Newman. I don't want me legs broke. You know, like, what? It's a Simpsons reference. But, you know, it's like,
oh my God.
And then he's like, oh, so do I warn this lady? Like, what do I do? So he goes to warn her, and then it turns out the guy who hired him is like the chief of police.
Oh fuck.
And then plot twist, the actual hitman shows up and talks to the chief of police, and then they figure out Nic Cage got all the money and is now warning the wife, and they're trying to escape. And so now the chief of police and the hitman are after Nic Cage and the wife.
Oh wow.
I need to see this. What is this
It was-
called?
It's called Red Rock West. It's
Oh my
really
God.
good. It was
Noted.
really good. I actually really enjoyed this one, and I was like, holy shit, this is like, I'm surprised I've never seen this.
Recommended by Mr. Soup. It'll just have like a warm bullet soup
Right.
next to
As
the
opposed to
title.
a cold one.
Right.
I'm all fuck gazpacho in Nic Cage voice. So
Gazpacho.
fuck gazpacho, shoo, throw it out the window. So match 9 was Moonstruck, which my mom loved growing up. I remember she watched Moonstruck all the time. I think coming from an Italian family, I'm burnt out on stories about Italian families.
Right.
So I was just like, oh god, this movie drags. Moonstruck was against Deadfall, which by no stretch of the imagination is Deadfall a good movie. However, Deadfall is a batshit crazy Nic Cage movie without it being a David Lynch movie, which is something. So Deadfall is like a movie about mobsters, and Nic Cage plays like this unhinged drug addict guy who's like, his brother like comes back into the mob family to run the business after their dad is killed. And I'm pretty sure that like they gave him set drugs to use and he swapped them out with real drugs. It was just broke out of his mind the entire time, because I'm like, that's not even acting, Nick. That's like you're high out of you're like stoned out of your gourd on coke, just like screaming at camera. And he's just like, he looks super sleazy. He looks like a 70s porn promoter who would stand on O'Farrell Street and like try to get you to come in and like see the toothless lap dance lady.
That's a very specific reference. Very
Right,
specific.
yeah.
reference.
I cannot confirm or deny that I have attended ever such party. Anyway,
Allegedly.
allegedly,
was,
he looked like Andy Kaufman in a costume. I'll say that. So
Yeah.
like, anyway, like it was just awful. But then the movie takes this weird twist, and like a bunch of weird mobster bosses show up, and one of them is like Dr. Claw from fucking Inspector Gadget. And he has this like ornate lobster claw for a hand, and he goes to shake Nic Cage's brother's hand. And he's like, "How did you know I wasn't going to cut your fingers off?" And the guy's like, "Because I got what you need." And the guy's like, "All right, fair enough." And then they get like into this Wild West shootout. And I was like, where is this movie even going? It's just so fucking weird.
Oh my god.
Which is how Nic Cage is. So that beat
Right.
Moonstruck. So
Yep.
so Deadfall moves on. The next one, I'm sure a lot of your listeners will be very familiar with the first movie, The Color Out of Space. Came out recently. I thought maybe Joe had talked about it in Horror Corner. I'm sure she has, possibly. No?
No.
Oh my god, so Color Out of Space is a H.P. Lovecraft adaptation.
Ooh.
It's like the third time they've made this adaptation. So they did The Curse back in the 80s, like a VHS horror, was an adaptation of Color Out of Space. But it's about a meteor lands in this Massachusetts family's like farm. And after the meteor lands, it starts making the local flora and fauna like very vibrant and very colorful. But then they start to like mutate. And like Nic Cage plays a dad who like retired to this farm near Arkham, Massachusetts, who like is raising alpacas, I think, or llamas or something, and his kids are like teenagers, so they're like, "Oh, Dad, why do you have alpacas?" And he's like, "Well, once we're able to milk them, like you'll be happy about that." And they're like, "Ew, gross, dude."
Because they
And then
sound like
like
saxophones when they're quizzical.
it very quickly becomes like a body horror movie, and it has really good like not on par with John Carpenter's The Thing, but like really good body horror stuff.
You have my attention.
It really, there is a scene where the mom is like being infested with the Color Out of Space, and she's like cutting carrots, and she just like continues cutting up her fingers. And A lot of things don't creep me out, but like my toes curled. I felt like I contracted bonitis. Like I was just like screaming.
Oh wow.
And I was like, my only regret is not finding a cure for bonitis. Like it was just so horrid. But it's really good. It has Tommy Chong in it. And it was a really good movie. I really liked it. That went against Rage, which this is one of those movies where I was like, what the fuck is Rage? Oh, fucking God. Rage is the movie with Danny Glover.
Oh, my God. Here we go.
Oh, my God. I don't know what the other one was. It probably sucked. Dying of the Light was trash. I don't know. Whatever. I give up on Dying of the Light. Whatever. But no, Rage is the one with Danny Glover. It was garbage. Do not recommend. Color Out of Space wins. Number 11 was The Rock. Easy win versus Outcast. What the fuck was Outcast? It was forgettable. I am not stalling as I look for the synopsis of this movie. I don't have it, but it was so bad. Outcast. Oh God, no! Now I remember Outcast. Outcast is literally one of the. This is the one movie in this entire tournament I turned off. Halfway through because I was like, I can't. Nic Cage, for some reason, it's very white savior movie. Like it takes place in feudal China, where like there's an emperor who doesn't want his aggro military son to take over the empire. He wants his loving, kind son to take over the empire. And surprise, aggro military son kills the dad and takes over the throne and wants to kill the brother. Enter Nic Cage, and for some fucking reason, Anakin Skywalker himself to then like train all these people who are like a well-formed army.
Oh, I gotta watch this.
They have to come in and like save people, and I was like, it's so fucking cringy.
Wait,
and it's
what is it called?
So bad. It's called Outcast.
Outcast. I'm
it's
watching this.
So bad. And like Nic Cage disappears.
Christensen and Nic Cage.
Like he disappears for a while and then he shows back up like because they had to show flashbacks of like how did Hayden Christensen get so good with a bow and arrow? Well, Nic Cage taught him. And here's Nic Cage again towards the end to be like, yeah, boy, you did well. And I'm like, what is what the budget God of War is this shit? Like, so it was just really bad. And it was going against The Rock. Which I was like, I almost torpedoed The Rock, though, because I was so offended. As an Oakland A's fan, there's a scene where Ed Harris shoots off a nuke, and they go, it's heading towards Oakland. And first off, I was like, okay, first off, rude. And then it was like, what's happening there? Baseball game. And I was like, oh, shit, they're going to show the Coliseum. And it flies over Candlestick.
Right. Yeah.
And they were like, oh, man, they almost nuked Oakland. And I was like, you motherfuckers. You couldn't have given. Not only were you like, what are we going to target? Oakland. Why not? Like, you dissed Oakland twice in that. I was so offended. But anyway, The Rock is amazing. It raised questions like, why is there an like Donkey Kong style mining facility underneath Alcatraz?
Right.
Why with all of Alcatraz? Right, with like mine carts and shit, and they're like, the Kremlings are coming, hide on the mine tracks. I'm like, what the fuck is it? There's like the random flame wall that like Sean Connery was like, oh, I rolled out through these flames. It's like, why are there flames in the first place? Like, what in the double dare is this shit? I have too many references.
No, that's great. Did you see
the is the best though?
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, the whole movie is the best though. But have you seen the connection where he's actually like James Bond imprisoned?
Oh my god, no, I did not. That makes
so there's a whole theory
sense.
as far as the timing, like the dates and everything of the microfilm, and he's an international spy who gets arrested and put in Alcatraz.
Shit.
And like somebody online pieced together the dates that they refer to his capture and like when his last Bond movie was, and there's like a correlation. And
I love that. That's actually really I love that.
Yeah, that'd be really cool if we could work that into some kind of feature or something. But
well, and what I like about The Rock too, so Nic Cage plays a scientist, which is believable, and he plays a scientist who like under duress can like shoot a gun, hooray, like things like that, like that's believable. I don't take Nick as this like high class assassin who could like kill you from 28,000 yards away or whatever, you know. But like this was believable. Ed Harris is amazing. Sean Connery is amazing. Like the whole movie was just so good, and it's always a pleasure to see 1990s San Francisco in all the chase scenes and everything.
Right? Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
what the city used to look like.
Exactly. I'm like, that's the pre-tech city. Aww.
Right.
My heart and soul in the next one, round 12, Con Air versus Firebirds. All I have to say about Firebirds is it's like somebody was like, what if we made Top Gun, but with helicopters and worse? What? And that is Firebirds.
My list.
Like, it is so
Nate's
bad.
Watch all the bad movies.
Like it is like if Dollar Tree wanted to make Top Gun, and they only had access to like one of those helicopter rides around Hawaii, and they were like, "Let's make it work."
Helicopter toys that they
like
sell.
it's like great value. Like it was so bad, and it's going against arguably the best Nic Cage movie ever, Con Air. Which I mean,
a great movie in itself. Like,
I mean, and Con Air is a great movie in itself. It's one of Nic Cage's strongest performances. I am personally biased because it's the movie I saw with my older brother right before he moved away for college, and we went to the Dome Theater in Pleasant Hill and saw it together. And it's just one of my most cherished memories. But that aside, nostalgia aside, it's a good fucking movie. It has Danny Trejo. It has John Malkovich. It has that weird guy who looks like a werewolf. It has Buscemi. It has Dave Chappelle. It has the guy who played Swamp Thing was also in the Jerry Springer movie. I don't know him in anything else, but anyways,
it's got the freak from Hackers.
Yes, it does. It had so many. It was just obviously Con Air wins. It was so good.
Right.
One of my childhood friends, we would watch that movie like at least once a week after school.
It is so good. It is.
I mean.
Cole
Meany, John Cusack. I mean, you can't you can't lose.
Wings Hauser.
Yes.
Who is in anyway, that's a total tangent. I will not bring that up. He's in one of my favorite absolutely garbage movies. But anyways. Round 13. Leaving Las Vegas versus Left Behind. So I said earlier, my friend was like, I can't wait till you get to Raising Arizona. He also is like, I can't wait till you get to Leaving Las Vegas. I had no idea what this movie was about. I thought, oh man, Nic Cage, Las Vegas. For some reason, I thought of the Kevin Costner movie, something about Graceland, which takes place in Vegas.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I anticipated Nic Cage as an Elvis impersonator, like bank heisty thing. I did not expect Nic Cage as a depressed alcoholic trying to kill himself, and Elizabeth Shue getting essayed left and right, and then the movie just ending. I was like, what in the shit is this? It's so depressing. I hate this. Its only saving grace was that Left Behind got negative 1,000 points for making me watch this bullshit. Oh my god. Left Behind is literally like, I'm 90%, like I was positive when I was watching it. I was like, I bet this was directed by Kevin Sorbo. Like, it is the story of the rapture. And Nic Cage is an airline pilot. He is flying to London, and his daughter finds out that he's going to London to see his side piece because they're going to go see the Rolling Stones together or something. And like, they get in a big fight. They're halfway across the Atlantic. Boom, the rapture happens. Nic Cage's co-pilot disappears. Half the people on the plane disappear. Half the people in the world disappear. I'm assuming half. I don't know. There's like babies left behind, and there's no real explanation why there's babies left behind. And then the whole thing just devolves into this like theocratic Bible discussion about good and evil. And like Nic Cage has to come back, and like they have to turn around and like, oh man, the rapture happened. Oh God, we all got to be better people. And like, it was so bad.
I was take care of all these babies, and why are babies not rapturing?
Right. I was like, why is that little girl like still on the plane? Like, I'm not religious, but like, what the fuck? I was
Yeah.
like, that offends me. Like I'm
hell did she
viscerally
do?
mad.
Because the
Right.
Lord works in mysterious ways.
I was like, little girl, who did you kill? Like, what?
Right.
is-
Yep.
oh no. But it was bad. So obviously, the more depressing movie, surprisingly, leaving Las Vegas, moved on.
Oh dear.
Spoiler alert for round 14. Round 14 was supposed to be the unbearable weight of massive talent versus trespass. But after watching the unbearable weight of massive talent, I cannot, in all good faith, put that in this tournament.
Right.
Because we'll discuss that at the end. But
Yeah.
you guys know why. So anyway. So I swapped it out with Gone in 60 Seconds. I remembered liking that movie. It holds up all right. Some of the jokes are extremely dated. I don't know what was with the late 90s and like German goth industrial like rivet head guys in leather trench coats who don't talk.
Right.
And then at the end he has this like random British accent. He's like, well, you know, if we really, and everyone's like, oh shit, he talks. Huh.
He's silent Bob-ness.
Right. And I was just like, but it was, yeah, it's a fun movie. It has the guy from Congo fresh off Victor Homolka eating his sesame cake.
Yes.
Right.
I can't remember his name, but I love him.
Harkama Homolka.
Yeah, well, no, Harkama Homolka, but the general guy. But anyway, so it was decent. It's Gone in 60 Seconds. It went against Trespass, which again, forgettable bad movie. It started out strong. It's Nic Cage and Nicole Kidman. They're married. Nic Cage plays like a jewelry dealer, and their house gets a home invasion robbery. And the people who are robbing them are like, we know you have all this money. We know that you have it. Like, you better stop playing or we're going to like essay your wife and we're going to kill your daughter or all this other stuff. And he's like, no, I don't have it. You don't understand. And like, it kind of goes along like it's a thriller. So you're like, oh shit, like, does he have the money? What's going on? And then it seems like these people really know him. And then like twists start coming out. You're like, okay. But it seems like the director was like, you know how M. Night Shyamalan has like one big twist? What if we did that, but like 12 times?
Oh, geez.
And so it just kept twisting to the point where I was like, okay, this is just, I can't follow this anymore. This is so bad. It was really just disjointed and just irritating. So Gone in 60 Seconds won. Number 15, Mandy. Anyone watch Mandy?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Mandy is...
It's a fever dream.
It's a fever dream, and it's made by the same guy, Panos Cosmos, like the Cosmatos, is the director. I think that's how you say his name.
Isn't that where the axe is from?
That's where the axe is from
Okay.
Mandy.
I was wondering.
And he's the same director who directed a movie that I love, Beyond the Black Rainbow. And so Mandy takes place in the late 70s, early 80s, about a religious cult, which is kind of one of those like new age boomer type of like spiritual, like rock and roll hippie type people who basically go to Nic Cage's house because the cult leader saw Mandy, who's his wife, at the store, and he was like, oh, she's the one, we have to sacrifice her to like these demons. And they basically break into Nic Cage's house, leave him for dead, kidnap and burn her in some sort of ritualistic sacrifice. Nic Cage survives and then just goes batshit crazy. Goes to oh god, he's in Predator and I can't remember his name, and he was also in Commando.
Carl Weathers?
No. Oh fuck, I gotta look it up real quick. Anyway, he goes to this guy's like trailer and he's like, I need the beast, and the guy's like, oh cool. He goes to Bill Duke's house.
Oh, Bill Duke, yeah.
And he's like, I need the beast, and he's like, you gotta go get those freaks, and he's like, those Jesus freaks are going down. So he gets this like giant crazy looking axe and he just goes on this like killing spree, and there are like demon people on motorcycles. It's a visual feast for the eyes. It's very beautifully shot. It is batshit insane. There's blood and guts everywhere. The marketing for this movie was amazing. Oh,
it's
go
got
ahead,
King. It's got King Egbert from Vikings, who's the cult leader.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's great.
It's so good. I love the marketing for it. I think it was Lakeshore released a vinyl record of like 70s psychedelic music supposedly written by the Cult. And
That's
so
great.
I bought that, and it's actually like it's really enjoyable if you like that kind of 60s psychedelic rock type stuff. But it's a batshit crazy movie. It's really good. That went up against 211, which again, forgettable garbage movie. It was these 4 ex-military guys, it doesn't really say who or what they are, decide to rob a bank. Nic Cage is like run-of-the-mill salty angry cop who's doing a ride-along for this kid who got in trouble at school. They happen to be on call when the bank gets robbed, and all units have to get there, and then like these guys are like killing hostages left and right, and Interpol is involved for some reason. And it felt like it could have been good with a little more direction, but like whoever wrote it just kind of like, it sounded more like they were just pitching ideas and then just went off the pitched ideas and they didn't flesh it out. And it was very apparent because like you don't know like why or who these people are, like what they're doing, why they're doing it, who they are, where they came from. Like it just kind of happened, and then like it ended, and then it turns out at the end it's all, this is based on a true story. And I was like, what? It's based on a true story. So then I had to go to fucking Google, and it's based on the 1997 North Hollywood shootout.
Oh, shit.
Which the only similarity is there was a bank robbery. That is it. It could have literally been about when Wells Fargo and Walnut Creek was robbed. And then they were like,
Right.
cool, let's do it about that. But we're going to have ex-military. We're going to have all these things happen. Blah, blah, blah. Like it had nothing else to do it aside
Oh, that's
from
funny.
it's a bank robbery. And then they had the gall at the end of the movie to be like, based on a true story. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
No, it's not, you liars. Liar McLiar face. Anyway. So the
Inspired by a true story.
Right. Inspired by a true story.
Yeah.
So thank you all for coming with me on this journey. The final bracket for the first round. Pig, which came out in 2001, which I had no idea what the hell it was about, or Pay the Ghost, which I also didn't know what it was about. So Pig, really good movie. So Andy, you're in Portland, yeah?
Salem, yeah. So
Salem.
I'm
So-
about an hour away. Yeah.
Pig takes place in Portland.
Uh-huh.
Nic Cage is a hobo who lives out in the woods, which I'm sure is like people from Portland would be like,
Right. Yeah.
And he has a truffle pig, which again tracks.
Right.
And he just goes truffle hunting. That's what he does. He looks like a
Okay.
hobo. He lives in a dilapidated shack. He goes truffle hunting. And one day somebody steals his truffle pig. What is he to do?
Dude.
So he goes to the
John
local
Wick on it.
right. So he goes to the local farmer's market, and he's like, "Where's my pig? I miss my pig." And this lady is like, "Oh shit, them Duke boys! I told them not to take your pig." So then he like teams up with this kid who is like the son of like one of the most renowned chefs in all of Portland, and because Nic Cage is like, well, somebody must have got the pig to like, because she finds truffles or something, and we got to go, whatever. So then, like, they go through Portland to like all these different eateries and like trying to sniff out like who got the pig and where the pig is, because Nic Cage is a simple man. He just wants to drink his toilet wine and live with his pig. You know, he doesn't have time for the fancies of society. I mean, after the week I had, I'm gonna go join him. Shit. After watching 32 Nic Cage movies, I feel like going and doing that. I just got to get a truffle pig. So, but then where it kind of goes off the rails a bit is like, there's this like underground chef fight club that happens in Portland.
Yes.
Where like, they're like, we got to go ask the line cooks. Where are they? Here, hold on. And then there's like passwords being exchanged. And they go into like the basement of this building where there's like people in chef coats, like beating the shit out of each other for money.
Awesome.
And I was like, the fuck? And I'm like looking at my notes, and I was like, mental note, ask my sister-in-law who is a chef like about the underground chef fight clubs. Because what the hell? But then as it goes along, it turns out that Nic Cage isn't just a crazy hobo. He used to be like the most renowned chef in all of Portland, but then he got dissatisfied with the chefing world and was like, it's all bullshit. It's a bunch of people standing around a room sniffing their own farts. So I'm going to go live with my pig in a shack. And then it turns out that the kid who's helping him, his dad did pay to get the pig, and he had the pig killed. And Nic Cage is very sad.
Oh my god.
Does he rage kill the kid's dad?
No, he doesn't. He just kind of like he just kind of sadly goes back to his pile of rags in a dilapidated shack and like lives out his Oregonian lifestyle. So, you know, I mean,
No, nah, very
but
sad.
it was surprisingly good. I was like, I really enjoy this. Pay the Ghost, great concept, bad execution.
Okay.
It takes place, it's Nic Cage in, I want to say like Boston, and he's a professor and he does like a class on like cryptozoology and folklore and ghost stories and stuff like that. And it's Halloween night and his son is like, I want to go trick-or-treating, and he goes down to this like old town, Salem, Massachusetts, or wherever the hell they are. Boston. They go down to this like old town festival, and while he's trying to get his kid like a corn dog, his kid hears like this raspy witch's voice whispering to him, and the
Whoa.
kid like sees these things in the distance which look super creepy, and then all of a sudden he turns around, there's like a jump scare of a witch, and the kid is gone. Nic Cage turns around with a corn dog. It's every parent's worst fear. He's like, where the fuck is my kid? He goes back home and he's like, honey, I lost the kid. And his wife's like, what the fuck, you lost the kid? Like, and so then he's like trying to find where his son went, but then like he starts noticing there's all these different hauntings that are happening. And he's trying to piece it together, and he starts looking into folklore for the area. And it turns out, lo and behold, back in settler colonial times, there was a woman who was accused of witchcraft. Her children were killed, and then she was burned at the stake, and she cursed everybody. So now every year on Halloween, she kidnaps one child and takes them to the Shadow Realm, where she then hoards all her children, like in this shadowy, dirty area. So then Nic Cage realizes now a year later, he's like, I have a chance to get my son back, but as time goes on, they start to fade. And once they become like truly ghosts, I can't get him back. So I have to, quote unquote, pay the ghost, i.e. the name of the movie, to get my son back. So then he finds there's like this underground like society of hobos that aren't chuds because they live in Boston, not New York. And so he like talks to them, and they're like, oh, the whispery place, don't go there. And he's like, I watch Pet Sematary, I'm going there right the fuck now. So he goes into the whispery place. Really cool cinematography with this room full of these like different stages of dissolving kids. And when I say dissolving, I mean like becoming like grainy like silhouettes, not like dissolving
sure.
with acid.
Yeah.
And he's walking through this room where there's just like centuries of children just standing there, and they're all trying to reach out and hold his hand. And he's like visibly upset. He finds his son in his little Halloween outfit, and his son is like, Daddy, can we take these other two kids? Like, they were taken too. I'm sure their parents miss them. And Nic Cage looks at them lovingly and scoops up his son and tells his kids, if your parents cared enough, they'd come get you. Peace. And then he walks away, which I was kind of like, dude, Nick, dick move. Like, what the hell? And then he's on his way out, and the witch is like, yo, give me back my kid. And he's like, suck a dick, dumb shit. And he runs away. And then he like gets out, and the movie kind of ends. So, I mean, it was good. It could have been executed better. Pig was way better of a film. Like, Pig, I was like, oh, damn, Nic Cage is an actor. Holy shit. So those were all the participants.
So let me just really say, shock that Ghost Rider did not make either list.
I was shocked as well. I have to say, I was definitely shocked.
that is a fairly Nic Cage movie.
And it is. I feel like it was probably just too shitty to meet the shitty list, or just not good enough to meet the good list.
Right. It was too middle of the road for either.
Exactly.
To push it either way.
Right.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'll just quickly, I mean, we know the movie, so I'm just going to run down the brackets as fast as I can. So,
okay.
Round 2, Vampire's Kiss beat Adaptation. Round Wild at Heart beat Trapped in Paradise. Grand Isle beat Season of the Witch. Red Rock West beat Raising Arizona. Color Out of Space beat Deadfall. Con Air beat The Rock. That's the big upset.
Oh, wow.
That one was like picking between my children.
No, of course.
Sophie's choice, Mr. Soup at us.
That was when I got to that, I was like, I'm gonna watch each of these twice because I love them both, and it is like picking one of my children.
Oh.
And I was just, it hurt, but I was like, Con Air is the better movie. It is better put together. It is better acted. It has better action sequence. It's paced better. Con Air beat The Rock, and
Okay.
and everything's bad now. Is how I felt. Gone in 60 Seconds beat Leaving Las Vegas because I did not want to be that depressed.
Again, right.
Mandy beat Pig because Mandy's just a fever dream, like Joe said. Round 3 for the final 4. Vampire's Kiss beat Wild at Heart. Grand Isle, I liked more than Red Rock West because Nic Cage, again, he plays a perfect alcoholic PTSD veteran. Like, it is like the role he was born to play. Take that what you will. Con Air obviously beat out Color Out of Space. Mandy beat Gone in 60 Seconds. The top 2, Vampire's Kiss beat Grand Isle. Con Air beat Mandy. And the winner, overall, the most Nic Cage movie is technically Con Air. However, the most Nic Cage movie is the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
100%.
100%. And that movie, I unironically will say, is one of my favorite movies of all time. It is good.
Let's back up and give Con Air its moment to breathe in the basket of light of beating out all of that crap.
Nick Cage is Nick Cage. Con Air is absolutely. If you wanted to tell somebody you want to watch a Nick Cage movie, Con Air is the one.
Yeah,
I love that movie so much. I need to watch it again.
As confirmed in Unbearable Weight, because the opening scene is them watching Con Air.
The president's daughter who gets abducted watching Con Air.
And it's like they're watching Con Air and talking about how much they love Nic Cage. And I was like, that is the confirmation I needed.
Well, I love the tie-in at the end when they get rescued and she's like, Nic Cage?
Yeah.
That's fucking cool.
Right? Oh, and it has that fucking "How will I live without
you?" Exactly.
Right. I was just like,
my heart.
God.
Yeah.
It is just, Con Air is just so good though. It fires on every cylinder.
Yeah.
Nic Cage is believable. It just works.
I feel like we need to watch that here with the crazy surround sound just to get like the plane flying overhead and everything. Like, I think I'm gonna watch that tonight, maybe actually.
Well, and I mean, I mean, and not just like, I think like the score is like good enough for those really crazy moments in Con Air where it really paints it. The Buscemi reveal,
right?
I think is one of the greater things. What's his name in the movie? It's
Garland Green.
Like Garland Green.
Green. That's right. Yeah,
that's where I actually fell in love with Steve Buscemi. Is I'm like, Hannibal Buscemi is my guy.
Oh, I forgot. Jobin had a thing for Buscemi. Oh no!
Has. I still love him.
Yeah, well, I mean, his little quips in the airplane, right? When
I drove through 3 states wearing her head as a hat.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, now I definitely have to watch this tonight.
Yeah, he's a fount of misplaced rage. Like,
yes.
Like, this is a movie I
love
actually
that
probably
so
could
much.
quote front to back. I've seen it so many times.
It's so good.
And then his little interaction with the girl when they land, like, it's just like, he is so like sophisticatedly creepy in that movie, but plays it believably well to where you're just like, he's not necessarily just playing like a insane killer. Like, there's a method to like, he thought about this, and like there's a method to it for sure. I mean, and let's give like Nic Cage his due here, because I mean, like, he buffed up for this role, went full on like good old Southern boy with the accent too, and committed to it through it.
Bunny back in the
right,
right.
The laziest and most threatening threat ever uttered. Put the bunny back in the box.
Right. Now, why didn't you just put it back in the box? I was just like, and the supporting cast in Con Air was just. I feel like when it came down to Con Air and The Rock, I felt like the supporting cast in Con Air is superior to that of The Rock.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough because Connery counts for like 4 people in Con Air.
Dude,
he does, but
money, dude. Malkovich killed
but I
this
feel like
genre.
in Con Air, like Danny Trejo wasn't as popular as he is now when he was in Con Air.
Yeah.
And so he was in that, and then there was like Ving Rhames was in it
Right.
Right.
as well, and like there were so many like and like John Cusack and that whole thing with Wings Hauser and just like the kind of
Chappelle, dude.
espionage stuff, Chappelle. Like
Yeah.
there were aspects of all of these other really popular Nick Cage movies, like National Treasure and other stuff, with like trying to decipher Cyrus the Virus's like plans with like the Last Supper with the eyes cut out, like and things like that, and like it was just so good.
So
Now I need to see if they made a 4K upscale of Con Air.
You
Right.
done made
I'll
best
be right
friends
back.
with Cyrus
Yeah.
the damn virus.
Right.
Well, and it's funny too because I worked with a guy named Cyrus that whenever he sent me an email, whenever I heard his name, it was always Cyrus the damn virus.
Amazing.
And I couldn't resist. But to your point, Steve, I think that the lesser characters in Con Air are more fleshed out
Yes.
than they are in The Rock.
Exactly.
Because Trejo has that little, hey, I'd be Johnny 10,000 if they knew the truth, like
Right.
those little bits with and then a Swamp Thing being able to fly a plane, it's like amazing what you white trash people can do. It's
Oh
like,
yeah, exactly.
And then Ving Rhames having his, like, there was the basically the Cusack exposition of all the
Mhm.
of all that really fleshes out those guys, and they really play up to that part.
Yeah.
Even the the kid that plays the little the one in the dress the whole time, like
Sally Can Dance.
yeah, Sally Can
Yeah,
Dance. I mean, like,
Phantom Freak from Hackers.
right? Yes, yeah,
I can't
exactly.
remember
And
the
so,
actor's name.
right, yeah. So they all have their little moments where they get to shine a little bit, and you get to see them despite past like Cusack's explanation of who they are and what they've done.
Exactly.
So I think that was I think from that point, it really painted a picture of who these people were, and they certainly played into it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's one of those movies that, like, it comes on, you gotta watch it. Like, you gotta watch it through. And
I don't think I've
yeah,
ever met anybody that's like, fuck that movie,
right. Yeah. No, I totally agree. Yeah. And I mean, and just that one scene coming down, taking out the guitar at the Hard Rock with the airplane coming through, just taking out the guitar, like that scene will live in infamy forever. And then the downfall of Cyrus, like at the end, just gets so comical, but so good that like there's no there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, this guy's gone. Like, this guy's out.
Right.
With
pile driver to the head.
Yeah.
And I love like the Steve Buscemi at the very end. He's like at the craps table, and they're all, "Do you feel lucky?" He's like, "Yes, I do." I was like, "Oh God, he's gonna eat all those people."
Right. Yeah. And
which is why it's a spiritual prequel to the Dead movie that Zack Snyder made in Vegas, because
Oh, there you go. I love it.
That's my conspiracy theory, is that Con Air
is Army of the Dead prequel.
Yeah, he eats people there, and then they become zombies, which then becomes Army of the Dead.
Oh man, that's amazing.
I like it.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's great.
But yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about the unbearable weight of massive talent.
Yes.
Let's get into this. Joe, what are your thoughts off the bat?
I need a Nic Cage, Pedro Pascal buddy cop movie, or just buddy cop TV show. Just film those two and let me watch them for all time.
Right.
Because my God.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I feel like Will Ferrell in Zoolander with Pedro Pascal. Like, he's so hot right now.
Everyone was like that. Did you watch SNL? He fucking restored it. It was probably the best SNL episode I've seen in a long time. He
Dude,
absolutely kills it.
the Mario Kart
The Mario
trailer,
thing.
like,
Oh my
I
Yeah,
mean,
not,
come on.
that's the best thing to come out of there, but there's a ton of other great stuff. I
Yeah.
literally don't watch them back to front anymore, or front to back, excuse me. Never go back to front.
Ask them out.
Exactly. But this one I did, and it was hilarious.
Okay, all right, yeah.
So it's funny because I've been watching The Last of Us, so I'm like used to him being all gritty, and then seeing this where he's like just the cutest little, like, I want to put Javi in a little box and protect him for all time.
All right.
Yeah. No, I love, like, Javi and Nic Cage, their chemistry together. I was just like, this is like a bromance for the ages.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I was in it with them when I was watching it, like, and then maybe I was brain addled from watching 32 Nic Cage movies, but I was also just like, I was like, oh my god, like, I can't, like, your guys' friendship is what I aspire to have with people, like, oh
Yeah,
my god.
right.
We all felt the same way, like when they're exchanging shoes at the end, and that kind of
Right,
stuff,
yeah.
when they think each other is a traitor kind of situation. It's just,
Right.
it's the best.
I love when they're explaining, like, you gave me these goddamn penny loafers, you expect me to run over there? And he's like, no, but you see, you can do this, which makes me think this. Fine.
Well, Nic Cage keeps saying, like, I can't do this or I can't do that, and he goes, well, not according to the special edition of the DVD.
Right. Yeah.
He said you did all your own stunts.
Oh, it was so good.
That was great.
Yeah.
I love the shrine too, with the creepy. How much did you pay for this creepy, disgusting figure? Oh, about 6,000. I'll give you 20,000 for it. I'm sorry, Nicolas Cage is not for sale.
Oh, it's got everything. I feel like it has, like, suspense, drama, comedy. Like, it's so good. Like, the whole scene where he's, like, trying to knock out the guard in the server room and he gets himself tranked. And he's
Right,
like,
right.
I think I just
trying to
touched
go
my
around.
forehead.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then afterwards he's like, oh, I could totally see me playing like a spy now and all this.
Right.
And it's just, but I feel like, honestly, that movie is the perfect encapsulation. Like, I felt like I understood Nic Cage in that movie more than watching 32 of his films, because
Right.
he has a line in it where he talks about, like, I am an actor, and instead of, like, there are actors who will turn down roles because they're like, it doesn't really fit my brand. Nic Cage is like, if I'm not acting, I'm not working, so I'm going to take whatever role comes across.
Right.
Whether it's Left Behind, some Rapture movie, or whether it's Pig, where I live in the woods with a truffle pig, or whatever, and it clearly shows. But he's like, I'm not ready to stop acting, so I will take any job that comes across. And I was like, holy shit, that is Nic Cage. And
Yeah.
I felt
The
like I
bracket
understood
makes sense
him.
now.
Exactly. Like,
Right.
I felt like I got my answer when I was watching that, and I was just like, oh.
Do you have do you have an actual bracket, like in a
I do.
a form that we could put on the
Yeah.
in the show notes, because that'd be really cool to see.
I do. Let me. Yeah.
I don't worry about that now. We'll figure that out in post.
Yeah. 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 No, I totally agree. I think this was I think this was such a fun movie. I love the conversations that he has with his younger self, and fairly good DH on him.
Yeah.
You know.
And so, real quick on that, what's funny about that is the de-aged Nic Cage is literally, he's wearing the same outfit as he does in Wild at Heart.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he acts very similar to how he was in Wild at Heart. And so I felt like it was the duality between the movies where Nic Cage is a good, believable actor and the movies where Nic Cage is a drug-addled psychopath.
Yeah.
And so it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cringe at the beginning when he's meeting with the movie producer and the guy's like, oh man, no, I love you, you got it. And he's like, but you're gonna, I mean, I could read for you. Like, no, you don't need to read for me. It's like, oh no, I definitely am not going to read for you. It's like, no, you don't need to do that. I'm going to read for you. Like, stops him from getting in his car. I'm going to read for you. Like, no, dude, less is more. Less is more.
Right.
Yeah.
I do love when he gets to see Javi for the first time and he's like on the boat and he's like, now, I don't know if this could be some sort of thing where you want me to, like, fuck your wife or watch you watch me fuck your wife.
He doesn't know it's Javi yet.
He doesn't know it's Javi.
Javi's gonna have me fuck me, have him, like, want me to suck my dick.
I'm gonna give him a go. That's a no-go. I was just like, oh my god.
I am Javi. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was
the scene
rolling.
where they do LSD, I was crying.
Oh my god.
Oh.
When he says fuck it and just sticks his tongue out, like, oh no.
Yeah.
I can't drive on acid.
Oh my god.
They looked so happy when they were driving,
They
and it
were,
shows their faces
right?
in
Oh my
slow-mo, and then
god.
when he's
God.
falling down the wall, and he's like, "No,
Oh,
I'll miss
man.
you," and he's, like, on the ground already, he's like, "I'll miss you too."
Yeah.
How'd you get over here? I could just walk around the wall.
Right.
I do need to watch that again.
Oh, it
I
was
just watched it
so
last night, and
good.
it's great.
Yeah.
I want to
So
watch
great.
that under the influence of something. It'll be fun.
Right. Right.
But it was so good.
Yeah. I remember seeing the trailer for this, and I it didn't necessarily like call out to me like, this could be fun. Like it could just be like I felt like it was going to be like Nic Cage times 100, right?
Right.
Which, and it, I mean, and there were points definitely where, like he sort of cherry picked like the best Nic Cage moments from his movies and emulated those for sure, but did it in such a way in the story where it made sense and he wasn't doing it just to do it. And I think that was, I think that was the brilliance behind this movie is literally, cherry picking those great Nicolas Cage moments and and having them make sense in this narrative with everything. And that was his actual daughter too, wasn't it?
Was it? I'm not sure about that.
I'm
I don't know, but
pretty
the
sure.
fact that her name was Addie at the very end had me all
I-
like, "You want to watch
Oh,
Paddington too?" Like,
And I did appreciate the the Austin Powers fake out at the end with Demi Moore, and I thought that was I thought that was
hilarious.
that was wonderful. That was great. I kind of knew where that was going. I thought they might do that at that point. Like I bet this comes to it like an Austin Powers end almost, and sure enough, it did.
So the daughter's actually the daughter of Kate Beckinsale and Michael Sheen.
Wow, Roger that. That makes sense. Props to Michael Sheen. Jeez, good job, buddy.
Yeah, way to go, buddy.
Way to go, buddy.
Way to go, buddy.
Getting in there for all of us.
Happy birthday, Michael Sheen, also. He just recently had a birthday.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Did I just
Sorry.
kill the podcast?
You did.
No.
Podcast.
I think we all went down a Google hole.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
No, I was like, who the hell is Michael? What's his name? I'm horrible with names and faces, so I have to look up somebody's IMDb to be like, oh, they were so and so in this movie, and then I can put it all together. But until then, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
The werewolf in Underworld 2 and Aziraphale in Good Omens.
There you go.
Okay, I got it now. Okay,
The werewolf
thank
in
you.
Underworld
See,
2
that is
is
how
like-
I associate people. Like, I couldn't remember Bill Duke's name, and I'm like, he was in Predator, he was in Commando, and he says something like, I used to eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast.
Yeah,
or,
exactly.
like,
Right.
W, and then he, like, stabs the dude, and, like,
Gonna have me some fun. Gonna have me some fun.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, anyway.
All right. Well,
sorry, I'm
top five Nic Cage movies, guys. What do we got here, Jobin? You
Well,
want to start with your list? What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Joe, why don't you give us your top five?
Okay. So obviously number one's Con Air. Number two, Face Off. Which
Okay.
So I was thinking about today, what I need in my life is a Face Off prequel where we get more of Nic Cage as Castor Troy. Because like that opening with him in the church.
Yeah, they could de-age him and Gina Gershon and go to town. Yeah.
Ooh, absolutely. And there could be an After Dark version of that. I would not mind.
Oh, so leathery, so disgusting.
Oh God.
Yeah. Next is Willy's Wonderland, because even though he doesn't say anything, he just kills that movie.
Willy's Wonderland was amazing. I'm sad it was not in this tournament because I loved that movie. It was awesome. Such a bizarre but so funny. Like, it was so good.
The Rock, for obvious
Yeah.
reasons. Gone in 60 Seconds, again, for obvious reasons. And then honorable mention, The Knowing, because I'm a space nerd. And that's another one where I was kind of like, it's not in the bracket, but I think it's probably like either too good for the bad or too bad for the good.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's my my Nic Cage list.
All right. Nate, what's yours?
Sure. I don't really have a specific order for this, but I did have to move things around because of Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Yeah, right.
It's a great Nic Cage movie. All of my other Nic Cage movies are very basic bitch Nick Cage fare. Con Air, The Rock, Gone in 60 Seconds, National Treasure, Face Off, that kind of stuff. But I definitely had to add Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. So
yeah.
That's it for me.
Okay. Yeah. So again, my list is very simple, very sort of run of the mill for Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I think it's definitely one of his best. And after watching it, it's definitely one of my favorite Nic Cage movies. I didn't put that on that list again just because it's so fresh in my head. I didn't feel right, but I'm gonna give it another watch with my wife because I watched it alone in order to prep for this. So I think after that I can safely put it on a list with this. But number 5, National Treasure. I love movies like this. I think it's great. Even the Disney Plus spinoff that he's not even part of is really good.
Yeah, I'm watching with Addie right now. She's getting into it. It's good.
Yeah. It's
cheesy,
no,
but it's good.
a little cheesy, yeah. That acting certainly is not top tier in that, but
it's no Nic Cage
good.
movie. That's for sure.
Right. It's fun. Number 4, Face Off. Like, how can this not be top 5 Nic Cage at all? Number 3, shocking, Con Air. All right. Again, I mean, we've already said what we can say about Con Air, right? Number 2 is The Rock, simply for, again, what you said, like nostalgic San Francisco shots. Like, that's where we grew up. That we've been to those places. Like, let's set up Command Center at Pier 39, right? Like, I mean, come on, like, it's so great, right? And then the meeting at Palace of the Fine Arts, right, with the daughter, and then all the cop cars. I mean, like, it's San Francisco porn is what that movie is. It really is.
I mean, that's a different movie with Nic Cage.
Definitely has Sean Connery too. I mean,
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
He wears his Zardoz outfit,
Are you the barber? No. Stylist.
Right. And this is what
anyone's balls off with the clippers now, can I?
I just want to know, as your stylist, do you like your haircut? Are you happy with your haircut?
Wow, this is coming from like deep memory because I haven't seen that movie in forever.
Oh man,
stylist.
Can I suggest a haircut? Well, it's a grunge thing. My number 1, which was busted on Steve's very first thing, Raising Arizona. I absolutely love this movie. I know it didn't age well, but man, there's I don't know, it's one of those movies I watched at a time where, like, it was so sort of out there in terms of other sort of movie comedies that were out there that I didn't, it sort of opened my eyes to, like, whoa, like, this is crazy. And like the segments with John Goodman, I thought were hilarious. I thought Goodman was really used well. The part where they're coming out of the prison at night, like, I just thought was one of the funniest sequences I've ever seen. So yeah, Raising Arizona was actually my number 1 Nic Cage. I asked my wife at dinner what her sort of top Nic Cage movies. We had the exact same list, which was funny.
Right
yeah. So I mean, which is funny because we don't necessarily agree on, if it's, I mean, like if it's something sci-fi, we're typically in sync there. But in terms of like movie comedies and action stuff, we seem to have very different tastes. But no, it's funny that we were sort of simpatico on this, which was great. So
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What else?
Crickets.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I feel like if I had, I mean, I am going to do this again, but with B movies, and then I'm thinking about also doing it a third time with like VHS horror, something like that, like two
Oh
of
man,
my
yeah.
passions. But I feel like what I should do in the future, and I think Nate spoke, but not spoke per se to this during this podcast, is get more than just my subjective opinion on what should win, because I felt like with this it was very much like I'm subjecting myself to this.
Right.
With the other brackets, when I do it again, I'm definitely looking for more participation from multiple people who have either seen these films that are going to be up against each other, or who are like can argue their point of view and then take the overall kind of majority opinion on which movie should move forward.
I think if
Well-
you're going to make content out of this, that you save that for like a secondary run, because you're the one subjecting yourself to all of this abuse.
Oh,
Right.
for
It's
the Nic
your-
Cage one, it was definitely me
Yeah.
subjecting myself to a amount of torture that I'm sure the Geneva Convention is against.
Well, and that's what people want
Um,
to see is your opinion. And what would be cool
True.
is that you run through it yourself and do the matchups and all
Oh,
that.
absolutely.
And then you
Yeah.
could come back to it and make it kind of a refresh
No, that's a good point.
kind
But,
of thing.
Yeah.
but I do feel like, yeah, and definitely, it was a lot of fun. I will say that. As much as some of these movies were just god awful and painful, like having the movie up on my one monitor and then having like a Google Doc where I was taking notes during the movie of like I was writing down memorable quotes that Nick said. That's why I keep remembering when I think of Vampire's Kiss that fucking old woman, after saying, "What the fuck is going on in here?" like walks out like a GTA NPC. Like a GTA when you drag somebody out of their car and shoot them, like somebody on the street goes, "Oh God," they run like 3 feet and then they just like start walking like nothing happened. And I was like, oh my God, did her brain like reset after she
Yeah,
saw what was
exactly.
happening? Like, what the hell?
They hit her with the
And so-
flashy thingy from Men in Black, and
Right, but it just
Yeah.
like it worked so well, because then when I go back to score these movies, I'm like, I remember watching that scene and how hard I was laughing, because I was like, this is just
Yeah.
ridiculous. So it was fun, and it was just it was entertaining, I'll say that. And I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it, and now I feel like that's why I'm like, shit, I want to do this again, because now that
Yeah.
it's done, I'm like, what else could I do?
Right. Yeah.
I'm kind of
There's
at a
a
loss, like, yeah.
There's a template in place now for for this.
Right. Now I'm like, I
Yeah.
just need to slide in a new variable and then pick 32 of that, and then
yeah, you need
Go
to
through it
find
again.
somebody as prolific like Willem Dafoe, or that has range.
Right.
yeah, for sure. I mean, Willem Dafoe
Yeah.
would be interesting, but we all know Boondock Saints would win. I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
right.
Right. That's true.
I mean, because
Yeah,
we all
100%,
we all
yeah.
watch Willem Dafoe for the entertainment,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah.
and also like a side eye to the guy who was like, "You're just so beautiful." I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, that is clearly Willem Dafoe in a wig, my guy.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe's already. I mean, he's strange
Oh.
looking to me. He's not. I don't know. He's
He had the meat
Yeah.
sweats from too much gazpacho earlier.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, I'm not fond of his lobster. I'll say that. You know. I mean,
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I mean, Steve, this was great, man. I mean, just incredible that like just off of hey, could you just put some Nic Cage movies on your Plex server? This spawned you to go through and run through this, which I just think is incredible, man.
it quickly devolved so fast, and I was just like, you know what? Much like Nic Cage, I'm here for the insanity.
Right.
Let's do it. And the best part is, like Joe said, there's so many other Nic Cage movies that weren't in this because they were either not good enough or too good to be bad.
Right.
And so there's like almost a middle ground. Like I almost feel like I could technically do
You
a
could do
round
like the best
3 or a
of
round 2.
the best
Right.
of the mediocre.
Right.
For Nick
Do
Cage.
like the Nick Cage mid match or something like that. And
Yeah,
like have all his
exactly.
other films
Yeah.
and be like, all right, so this wasn't
Yeah.
terrible, but it also wasn't great.
But like
Right.
the average of mid or something like that.
Yeah. Exactly. And I mean that would be equally as enjoyable, because I do feel like there are some movies. I'm glad in doing this I got exposed to movies that I would have never otherwise had watched.
Right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that, I think, is what I enjoyed most about it. Because even though, yeah, most of them were fucking horrible, a couple of them were really like kind of sleeper hits that I was like, oh shit, I would watch that again, outside of a crazy self-torture kind of bracket.
It's a good lesson for you kids. The more you know.
Right. Yeah. Dun, 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 dun.
Holy crap! I just perusing because I was like, how many movies has he been in? Jesus
Oh
Christ!
God, a lot.
I forgot he was in Grindhouse as one of the trailers. He was in the Werewolf Woman of the SS trailer.
That's right. Yeah.
Didn't that
Well,
get
and
made
that
into a
technically
movie?
counts.
No, that's one of the few that hasn't yet.
Oh, okay.
We're getting
well, and then
Thanksgiving though.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, and there were two more too that, and one's one that he was in with Gary Sinise called Snake Eyes, where he plays this
Yes.
like Las Vegas cop, and there's a whole like murder mystery that he needs to figure out, and that's one of those movies that it's not good by any stretch of the imagination, and then but it's like it's something that I'll watch when it's on, because he's pretty effectively Nick Cage in that movie. Like there are very, very like grand Nick Cage elements in that. The other one was the one that he did with Joaquin Phoenix, where it's 8mm, and he plays
God,
the
yeah.
investigator.
You can't unsee that movie. Oh God.
Right.
That movie. Quick funny note on that. I took somebody on a date to see 8mm, not knowing what it was about.
No.
Oh god!
And I was like, yeah, let's go on a date. Like, there's this new Nick Cage movie. It sounds
my
like it's pretty
goodness.
crazy. Let's go. And I was totally like, I had the hots for this girl. And I was like, we're going to go watch this Nick Cage movie. We're going to go out for drinks, or not drinks because I was underage, but like, we're going to go out afterwards. And my parents work late. Maybe we'll go back. And halfway through the movie, I was like, I made a huge mistake. Holy shit. I was like, oh my God, I need to review what movies I take people to on dates. Holy shit.
I did that once as well. I can't now remember the movie that I took the date to, but it was like the worst possible first date movie ever. I might have to reach out to her to ask her what it was that I took her to. I'm still friends with her, but no, it did not go past that first date. Because of the terrible movie that I took her to. So that's funny that you took a girl to see 8mm on a first date, man. That's just amazing.
So, like, my brain totally just swapped out 8mm with 8 Mile for some reason.
Oh, yeah. No.
Oh my God.
And I totally just now remembered. I'm like, oh my God. I sadly it was like, oh, I loved 8mm. That was a great movie.
Vomit on his sweater already. Mom spaghetti.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm dying. I'm dead. Oh my God.
Can you imagine telling somebody like, oh yeah, we're gonna watch 8mm, and they think you're talking about 8 Mile, and they watch the whole thing, and then they're like, where the fuck does Eminem come into this? Like, what is happening here? Where's the rap battle? All I see is some guy dressed like the Gimp with a knife. What is happening?
Oh my God. No, 8mm or sorry, 8 Mile is what happens when Nick Cage leaves Eminem's mom, and then you get 8th Mile.
Right.
Oh my God.
Oh man, that's
times,
so funny. That's so good.
So yeah, 8mm goes on my honorable mention list.
There you go. There you go. Oh man, that's so good. Oh gosh. Yes. All right. So what is your favorite Nick Cage movie? What is your most Nick Cage movie? Let us know in the comments. What did you think of The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent? let us know in the comments. You can find us on Facebook at Rum and Regret Podcast. You can also find us on Twitter at Rum_Regret. Steve, where can they find you on the socials?
You can find me on my new TikTok account, which currently has nothing, but it will soon once I get around to making content. It's hella horror, pushed together because it's TikTok. Just HALLA horror. And I'm on all gaming platforms as We Are Stevo. But I might change that to Mr. Soup because I really like Mr. Soup.
Nice. Joe, where can they find you?
At Joe Chickadee on all the socials or at joechickadee.com.
Nice. Nate, where can they find you?
Sure. Avid Gamer, AV1D Gamer on all the socials and your gaming platforms of choice.
Excellent. You can find me at Crazy Drake on Facebook, at Andrew Drake on Twitter. And if you have any reason to watch Minecraft YouTube videos, my son recently started his own YouTube channel, The Panda Gamer. Just released his first video yesterday, as a matter of fact. And he's going to be putting out weekly content. So if you want to watch some fun, if you want to watch a 9-year-old rage at some video games, this is the channel for you.
It's hilarious. It's objectively funny.
Yeah.
just to throw that out there.
Right. There are 2 Endermen. All right.
2 Endermen, run.
So yeah, check out the Panda Gamer on YouTube if you can. Like, follow, and subscribe to all of our socials. And until the next time, we have spoken.
You're Nick fucking. Whoa, Cage!
Put the bunny back.
Oh my god, that is amazing.
So good. So good.